Hello, I'm Richard Forsyth of Players-Shakespeare.com, and in this video I want to explore with you how we structure our Shakespeare plays to provide you with lots of possibilities. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is get to Players-Shakespeare.com. So open your favorite browser, I'm using Google Chrome, and type in Players-Shakespeare. Players-Shakespeare.com. That takes me to the home page of Players Shakespeare. And if you scroll down on that, you'll find a table which contains a list of all the Shakespeare plays that we've published. Those which have a standard index are highlighted in blue. Today we're going to explore Hamlet using this system. Click on Hamlet and you get to the Hamlet home page, which shows you on the left the script of the play, or at least the start of the script in Act 1, Scene 1, and over on the right an index, the standard index, which shows all the various things you can see. So let's briefly explore the various elements of this index. If I click on cover, I get a front page of the book. When we deal with Shakespeare, it's nearly all words, 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 particularly in Hamlet, but it's nice to have a picture. Here we have a picture by Mikhail Vrubel from Leningrad. It shows Hamlet seated and Ophelia behind him. Hamlet looks like a fairly young man, a student at university. We know he's that. He's probably in his late teens, early 20s. Ophelia behind him is leaning against the chair. One suspects she'd rather be sitting on his knee, and she may be a lover of Hamlet. In fact, the songs she sings when she's mad strongly imply that she slept with him, and who knows, she may even be pregnant. Sometimes I think that, sometimes I think she's a bit of a daddy's girl, and sometimes I think she's still got a bit of both in her. Maybe that's enough to spend on the cover page. The next index entry is a cast list. Click on that, and on the left-hand side we'll see a list of all the speaking characters in the play, with a brief description of who they are. We don't want to restrict your interpretation of the character. One of the joys of play reading is you discover the characters yourselves by reading the part. Below cast is script, which is where we came in. Click on script and we get back to see a script. In another video, we're going to explore in detail how you use this window to see the whole script and in many different forms. Below script, you'll find round robin reading for 2 to 4 players, or indeed 2 to 5 players, as many as you like. Round robin reading is everybody reading the same script and taking each speech in turn. So the speeches go from person to person. And if each person comes with their own web browser and clicks on this link, it will take them to a script where they can read each speech in turn. Below that, we're starting to get more complicated. We have a cast list for 6 players. Let me click on that and you'll see a list of how people have been allocated different parts. Supposing you have a group of 6 friends who want to read a play together. First, you can download the books to your, if you've got an EPUB reader, or alternatively, you can read it on the web. we're going to give you another YouTube tutorial on how you do the download process. When there are 6 people, the 6 different players are allocated different roles to play. Player 1 is Hamlet and Messenger. Player 2, the King and Marcellus. Player 3, Polonius, Laertes. Player Prologue, Gentleman and Captain. Player 4, the Queen, the Ghost, Fortinbras. Player King, Bernardo and Servant. And player 5 has even more roles to play, as you can see here. So let's assume we're going to play player 4. If I click on player number, player 4, it opens up a script which is in what we call highlight text form. One of the roles that this player 4 is going to play is Bernardo, and so all Bernardo's lines in Act 1, Scene 1 are highlit. And if we go to Act 1, Scene 2, which we can do by clicking on Act 1, Scene 2 there, you'll see that the Queen is also one of the characters that is going to be played. And she is highlight lit, but in a different colour. So the general idea is that each person sees the full script, but all the roles that they are playing are highlight, and each character is highlight in a different colour. We have cast lists for 6, and a cast list for 7 players, and a cast list for 8 players. What we have found in our own experience is that quite often people who say they're going to come to a play reading can't make it on the day. So it's quite handy to invite more people than may come. And because we have cast lists for 8, 7 and 6 players, if we invite 8 people to read and 1 or 2 of them have to drop out, we can use the different cast lists for the smaller number of people. There's one other cast list which is of interest, which is the cast list for 16 players in this case. It's the original casting as the play was read by the King's Men, I suspect, and you'll see that there is far less doubling of parts than there is normally. However, Polonius and the Clown are doubled, whereas more recently it's tended to be the Ghost and the Clown who are doubled. Laertes and the Player King and the Player were originally cast. And if it amuses you, you can play the whole play with 16 different players with the original casting of the play. As well as reading the whole play, which is quite difficult because you have to get 6 or 7 people together, you can also read particular scenes. In one case, you can explore how Polonius thinks about his children, which I think is revealing about what sort of a chap he is. We call this Let's Play. And there is a brief description even of the scene that we're playing. And the scene is played for 3 people. Each of the people has their own cast. If I click on Polonius, I get a scene. I go straight to the scene that we're interested in, and Polonius is highlighted. If I go back and say that I'm somebody else now, I can click on Ronaldo, and I think you'll see in just a minute that Ronaldo's part is now highlighted. There are 3 people in the scene, so surprise, surprise, the third character, Ophelia, if we click on that link, we'll find her script with her lines highlighted. So 3 people can play the scene There is from the entry of Ophelia, Ophelia's lines. So 3 people with 3 different web browsers can play the scene together. Play and explore the scene together. You'll see that as well as the Polonius scene, with discussion of Laertes and Ophelia, there's also a scene which I find amusing, which is Hamlet meeting Osric in Act 5, Scene 2. And we also have a more popular scene where Hamlet berates his mother. And finally, a fight with Hamlet and Ophelia. You can explore these yourselves. So that's how you can play with the play using the index. But we don't stop there. We have access to other resources relating to Hamlet. So, for example, there's a review of a book by Professor Joseph Abici of Hamlet Fold on Fold. If I click on that link, you'll come to an essay about that. We also have reviews of productions, and here we can click on a review of Maxine Peake's production of Hamlet. And finally, we can have links to video productions that you can either download or buy as a DVD or indeed stream. So normally we'd have more than one of these. So I hope that brief tour of the index for Hamlet will give you some idea of how you can explore at the top level Hamlet on Players-Shakespeare.com. Of course, there's a lot more detail, and we're going to put up more videos which help you to explore in that detail. Now, I would suggest, instead of just watching us do it, you go to Players-Shakespeare.com and open up Hamlet and explore that index yourself. Or if that's been done to death, you could go to The Merry Wives of Windsor, which in our view is one of the most underrated of Shakespeare's play, and you'll see the same structure of index. And indeed there's a third, All's Well That Ends Well, which you can also explore. And we will be adding more plays with this standard index as soon as possible.